welcome to Super Start Select, the supersized edition of our week daily show to see you through the long, cold weekend.
Coming up, as promised, we've got your Mass Effect 3 questions answered by one of the producers of Mass Effect 3, funnily enough.
But not before today's retail roundup, in which we tell you what's fresh in stores this week and a dash of Final Fantasy XIII-2 news to boot. I hope you folks were saving up last month, or at the very least held on to those Christmas gift vouchers you got from that auntie you never see who smells faintly of biscuits.
Yes, the lull is over, and this week sees the release of a bunch of games in shops around the world, both the brick and mortar and the 1 and 0 kinds.
The 5th Soul Calibur game, Soul Calibur 5, comes to PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 this week. No Darth Vader or Yoda this time around, though. You're going to have to make do with Assassin and Creed fan Ezio Auditore di Firenze. We gave it a 7.5.
Dismember 'em Up Never Dead didn't fare as well, receiving a 6.0 for its enjoyable highs and crushing lows. But if you've been pining for a game that lets you explore ventilation shafts as a head, this may be for you. Final
Fantasy XIII-2, the sequel to the 12th Final Fantasy sequel, arrives on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, receiving a 7.5 for its troubles. If you're a fan of the series, no doubt you'll enjoy it, but if you're not, be sure to check out myself and Mark's 2-part guide to the history of the franchise.
And finally out in Europe is the stealthy Metal Gear Solid HD collection. So stealthy, in fact, that honestly we forgot it was coming out this week. If you own a 360 or PS3 and want to play HD ports of Metal Gear Solid 2, 3 and Peace Walker, this is now your chance. And if you're thinking of getting a PlayStation Vita, be aware the collection will also be coming to Sony's fancy new handheld later this year.
Over in the futuristic techno land of digital downloads, meanwhile, Zombie Hackathon Dead Island had a dose of DLC in the shape of its Rider White add-on. That's a story-based single-player adventure from the perspective of the game's main antagonist, in which we find out about his feelings and motivations and stuff. Ideal if all that friendly 4-player cooperative zombie butchering left you hanking for some alone time.
Last but not least, we've got Double Fine's exuberant Kinect Party type game, Happy Action Theatre, in which the good old Kinect camera will put you right on screen having fun times with your buddies, thrashing around in augmented reality ball pits, flailing at space invaders that aren't really there, and wading around in burning lava that's not really there.
Wow, that's awesome. It sounds like that day my brother gave me some of his special mushrooms. Does it have that bit where the sofa starts singing and the walls bleed liquid rainbows?
No.
For those of you picking up Final Fantasy XIII-2 this week, there's also a spot of news on the downloadable content front. Publisher Square Enix has announced next week they'll be releasing the Lightning Coliseum DLC, in which you can fight the pink-haired Poppet herself.
If you beat her, she'll join your party. That's right, for just a few bucks you can play with the character who's on the box, and all over the posters and in the ads.
Because we'd hate the spoiler for you, but Lightning isn't in the proper game a great deal. What gave you that idea anyway?
I begin my life anew.
Right.
If you've been paying attention to Mass Effect 3 on the run-up to launch, and why wouldn't you, you'll be familiar with a handful of headline features. The new cooperative multiplayer, Kinect voice commands, Freddie Prinze Jr.
Now, wait a minute.
But we know you're hungry for even more details on the Normandy crew roster, weapons customization, and whether we get to see Tally's face at last, or not. So we dispatched an away team.
That's Star Trek.
To locate and interrogate Mike Gamble, associate producer of Mass Effect 3, with your questions. Engage.
And if Mass Effect 3 isn't something pretty goddamn special, we'll eat our replica N7 space hats. We recently spent some time with the game. For our impressions in full, visit the URL below, but still we know Mass Effect keen GameSpot users have burning questions aplenty about the upcoming final third of the trilogy, wherein Shepard attempts once more to save the galaxy, for real this time. So we brought the GameSpot mothership into a geosynchronous orbit and took the shuttle out to meet Mike Gamble, associate producer on the game, and put your questions to him. Here's what he said.
So when you start Mass Effect 3, at the first sequence of conversations, there's a few decisions that you can generally choose if you either don't remember or if you don't have an imported save, and those can set the stage for some further things. I have a number, but I can't say the number. It's less than Mass 2 because we've been able to delve deeper into the character development, into the character progression, develop the characters that are in your squad a lot more, so there's a lot more of an organic feeling to the relationships. But yeah, definitely less than ME2. When we look at DLC, anything is possible. I mean, we can look at different characters, we can look at different missions. We haven't locked in plans, of course, yet, but everything's possible. I can't say that Kasumi is going to return as this or as that, but I can say that she returns. In some way, she's in the game. She makes an impact on the story, but again, just play it and you'll find out. But she's back. Now, again, will Rex return in our squad, or if not, no, I can't say that. But Rex he's actually back. In one of the previous demos that we had, if he's alive, he's actually in there as well. So all the squad members will be returning in some form to Mass Effect 3, the previous ones from ME1 and ME2. I feel sorry for our writers. Sometimes they have to come up with branching dialogue trees and conditionals all over the place just to make sure that the story represents all the possible outcomes that could have happened. The writers have also made it so that we can essentially, if you've never played Mass Effect 1 or 2, start with 3 and then jump in and not have to know all the previous things that have happened. The dialogue is written in such a way where if you didn't import a save, there's slightly different exposition, slightly different details that are given that doesn't require the player to have the full picture of what happened before. We're open to the idea of it. I can't say that we're going to or we can't. You have to play the game. But we've definitely heard the fan request for it, and we take it seriously. Earth in general has some significance. I mean, you see the beginning of the game, and that takes place in Vancouver, but that's not necessarily the last time you ever see Earth. There may be many locales, or you may go back to Vancouver. I can't say it specifically because that's a spoiler. But at the same time, I mean, Earth is really important, and we saw London in the trailer because we wanted to kind of showcase that, of course, everyone is under attack, and London was a really iconic place, and we really think that it was cool to show that trailer in that setting. But you never know, right? So we've got the weapon mod system, and that mod system allows you to basically customize your weapons around the mods and kind of stat tweak, to whatever level that you want to do. You don't necessarily have to use it, and it doesn't detract from the game at all, but it kind of lets you have that additional layer of customization. Same thing with the armor system. You do see a difference in the models. That was actually really important to us to be able to see that physical representation of what you've been doing in the game. I will reassure that person that it's not going to be a shooter. We've definitely improved and polished the shooting elements from ME2, but we've brought back a lot of the RPG systems, the weapon and the armor customization, the power evolution options. It's basically at the point where your Shepard is going to be completely unique in the sense that your friend probably will have never seen the same build that you have. Definitely the RPG focus is important to us. I wish that we could show everything that we have to show to all the fans, because I'm sure that once people start playing the game, those who have concerns about the shooter versus the RPG will be well assured that, oh yes, no, okay, now I understand where this is coming from. It's just a very tightly controlled balance that we want to maintain. So the hardware that's actually built into Kinect does a lot of voice recognition, and we found it's actually been really effective at kind of blocking out the ambient noise and recognizing your voice, depending on even your accent. So if you have an Australian accent or a British accent, that all works with the system, and it just interprets in real time, and it's a lot quicker. We generally like to have areas in which the player is free to explore at their will, and take their time and do different things. Obviously, ME3, the overall focus is the war, so that changes the context over some of these things a little bit, but exploration and kind of non-linear events, that's still really key to us. So the Citadel is there. How the player uses it and how it's represented, don't want to go too far into detail, but at the same time, much as though you've been able to expect, the vastness and scope of the Citadel will basically make a return. As part of the Galaxy at War system in Mass Effect 3, we've created this idea of conflict zones. So each zone within the galactic map is under assault by the Reapers, and because of that, there's actually a representation of how those Reapers are attacking the system, which puts a little bit of pressure on the player. And without going into too much detail, it definitely is a good way of showing that overall story arc and that overall narrative thread in terms of where the Reapers are, how they're attacking, how much pressure they're putting on the player. So there's definitely a way for the player to see that. So the Mako on the planet scanning fulfilled, I think, the overall choice of needing to have exploration throughout the galaxy. That exploration is still really important to us. We have architected ways and clever ways to have the player, again, go out to those kind of far-reaching planets where, you might not necessarily go for a standard mission or things like that. So there are systems in place to support that, but they're different than they are in ME1 and ME2. So Mass Effect 3 is Shepard's story. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's never going to be another game in the Mass Effect universe. We've done a lot of IP development. We have this really rich story to pull many things from. Whether or not we choose to is kind of to be determined still, but it's not necessarily the end.
Time for the portion of the show we dedicate to the things you've written under the things we've made. So check out this choice selection of feedback.
A couple of thoughtful bits of fantasy action RPG, ARPG, Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, as featured in last week's show. First, Jarek011 is pretty positive about it. He says, "The demo for Kingdoms of Amalur has really impressed me. Once you get in the swing of things, the combat feels quite fluid, and the breadth of options in the character development is immense. I definitely want to pick it up when it comes out. Additionally, for PC users, it seems from the demo at least to be very well optimized."
Super. And Moonlight Wolf 01 is similarly optimistic, though he or she is ready for the well-worn old fantasy genre to mix things up a bit. Amalur does look good and the combat in the demo felt refreshing. The only thing I worry about is the setting. This kind of WoW fable fantasy feels like it's been done to death, resurrected and then done to death again. With all this innovation in terms of combat, it'd be nice to see innovation in the fantasy setting. Maybe something without pointy-eared folks for a change.
Also this week, Cam gave us the news that ex-Beatle and serial divorcee Paul McCartney is joining the ranks of David Bowie and Trent Reznor by recording a soundtrack for a mystery video game.
To celebrate this, we asked for game names fit for a former Beatle, and as ever, the handsome and talented GameSpot community delivered.
User Criminalic came up with "Here Comes the Gun."
McIntosh suggested Grand Theft Auto 5, Baby You Can Drive My Car.
And Scorpion1813 came up with a bunch of suggestions, including Alan Wake Paperback Writer, A Hard Day's Fight, Rock Band on the Run, Ticket to Grind, and our personal favourite, Eleanor Rugby 2012.
Whereas over on the GameSpot Facebook page, for some reason, insect game puns were all the rage. These included Resident Weevil, Louse of the Dead, Weevil May Cry, and Fleefa 12.
And finally, comment of the week goes to the_dead_NG, who dumped this philosophical nightmare on us. "I spent 30 minutes thinking about writing a comment. Finally, I decided that I won't. So I didn't."
That's us for another week. Have the best possible weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Specifically, Johnny will see you on Monday.
But if you're hungry for more, be sure to check out GameSpot's new clip show, Screen Tear, presented by Carlos Rodella, which should be live and kicking later today. Bye! Hello and welcome to Super Start Select, the supersized edition of our weekly show. I think I spat on the lens there. Do it again. That's a story-based single-player adventure from the perspective of the gay antagonist.
The main gay antagonist.
So many of them. Because we hate to spoil it for you, but lightning isn't in the proper game. It's gay. I just keep saying gay. It's got gay on the mind. So we dispatched an away team.
Oh, sorry, I was totally not prepared. I was looking at Cam. I'm always looking at Cam.
Me too. With your questions. Engage. Was that Sean Connery too much, maybe? Picard? All right, cool.